strategy and planning. You may recall we've already talked a little bit about the four basic functions of management. Planning is really the beginning of an awful lot of the other functions within management. So that being said, let's take a look at the aspect of what is planning. Part of planning is to cope with uncertainty. Just so you know, people spend a lot of time creating plans, but when the action actually starts happening, a lot of the plans go by the wayside. Part of the function of planning is to get this thing up here, focus in on the task and knowing the components of the task and what they have to actually go through and do to be successful. That is why you go through this whole exercise of planning. Strategy, or setting the long-term direction of your corporation, is a giant issue. Now, the textbook, there's an error. They talk about the aspect of being 5 years out for strategic planning. No. What's happened is, over the years, the actual window for strategic planning has been reduced because the whole world is moving so much faster. I'm talking like now, your window for strategic planning is 3 years plus. So whenever you talk about strategic planning in this class, or quite frankly in the real world of business, it's 3 years out, not the old 5 that used to be way back before 2000. So that being said, the strategy is you want to set up the long-term direction, and you got to think about, what do you want to accomplish? Do you want to increase your market share? Do you want to sit down and create some new products? Are you going to increase your overall research and development to keep up? If you're a technology firm, are you going to use a freemium methodology for your marketing, or are you going to do a straight sell? You have to think about all the different aspects of the strategy of what do you want to accomplish. That really is usually for the upper level of your organization. Sometimes you are the upper level, the middle level, the bottom level, and the employee all at once. That's called being an entrepreneur at a startup. So that being said, let's take a look at the overall process. First of all, you have to establish the mission and the vision. You have to look at where am I going? I know I'm making fun of it, but the truth is, that is what you should be doing. You want to have, what is the mission? What are you all about? And then what is the vision? How do you picture this thing rolling out? Do you anticipate everybody in the United States having your product at their home? Do you want to sit down and look at your market segmentation? Who is your market segmentation? What is the values of your organization? Because you're going to have values even if you don't think that you do. Everybody really does. Assess the current reality. Is your program feasible? If I want to innovate on this particular product with some innovations on it, what is the current reality? You got to formulate a grand strategy. Yes, you should always say it with a deeper voice, just like this. And then you take the strategy and then you implement the strategy, and then you got to go back and check the control. This continuous loop of going back, planning, executing, measuring, replanning, and go through a constant loop on it. That is how a good organization operates. And a lot of times we miss one or two steps. So a lot of times when you talk about strategic, you want to provide a good solid direction, momentum, encourage new ideas. You want to develop a sustainable competitive advantage. Make certain that you own it and that you really dominate in this new area that you go through. When you talk about capitalism really is the mainstream of the American economy. That is why we have a lot of competition in the United States. We have more copyrights, more patents coming out of our country because of the concept of capitalism, and the idea of innovation really powers an awful lot of things that we do here. To have a sustainable advantage, you better be responsive to customers, innovate, make certain you have quality, have an efficiency in the process, make certain that you have the ability to organize and produce goods and services more effectively than your competitors do. You should plan on being highly responsive to your customers. Let me park just for a second on that concept. Nowadays, I see a downgrade in massive amounts of customer service. Just the other day, somebody I know closely, they were actually wanted to have a presentation, and in the presentation, they went out and they wanted the person center says, well, we don't really come out and do presentations for small account like yours. Well, the next company she called up, they do, and they wanted her business. Oh, and by the way, It wasn't ended up being a small account. It was actually a long-term contract overall. But the reality was this whole arrogance of being unresponsive to customers cost them a major customer, short-term and long-term. And by the way, people talk. Make certain that you treat even the smallest client that you may perceive to be a small client, make sure you treat them really well. If you do, then you're going to have an advantage in the world of business. Strategic planning, make sure you set your major goals, policies, and strategies. Tactical is short term. We picture that strategic planning is 3+ years out. So you're planning for where your company is going to be 3 years out. It does not have to be precise. It only has to be 80% correct, not 100%, because guess what? Nobody knows what the world's going to be like exactly in 3 years. It simply is not going to happen. That's why strategic planning uses vaguer terms and big picture rather than the tactical and operational. Tactical planning is you're taking the strategic plans, you're making detailed short-term statements about what is to be done. We're looking at that as the 1 to 3 year window. So you're taking those big picture plans, you're breaking down, okay, we want to increase market share on an annual basis in 3 years by 20% on a regular basis. So over the 3 years you want to have it, but also in 3 years you want to be here. Okay, how do you go about doing that in year 1, year 2, year 3? That is the role of tactical planning. Operational takes the tactical plans, it chops them up in pieces, maybe by the month, maybe by the week, maybe by the day. And you're planning out, you're taking those plans and you're implementing them where the rubber hits the road. Yes, that's exactly what that really is. So you really have strategic 3 years plus, tactical 1 to 3 years, operational is less than 1 year. Contingency are those weird things that happen. Okay, you're ready for this. You have this emergency, you have this emergency, and this emergency. What would we do if this happened? What about this one? Suppose we had a big storm coming through, what would we do? Do we have access? Do we have first rights to bulldozers to clear the roads of our college campus just in case trees fall across it? How will students get to and from classroom? What happens if the power goes out? What is the rule? How long do we keep students in the classroom? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? What is the rule? What if all the water goes out and we don't have anything for the washrooms? What do we do? That's called contingency planning, and every corporation should invest into what if scenarios and make certain you talk about them and have a good plan ahead of time before that happens. And by the way, sometimes it doesn't work out exactly how you plan, but at least you thought about it and have a concept of what could happen if something similar happened. Plans are great, but unless they're effectively executed, they won't be worth more than the paper they're written on. A good plan can spur growth, create an advantage competition for your company over your other competitors out there, and even contingency plans by the time you're done looking as to what if. Okay, what would you do if you had this happen or this happen or this happen? That would help you as an organization to cope with different things. You may not know this, but when the United States went through that awful day at September 11th, 2001, there was no plan as to what to do if terrorists destroyed a major building and then had a planned coordinated attack on multiple sites. They implemented a different plan for actually a nuclear bomb strike, and they used that plan to deal with that situation. A lot of scholars, they believe that there were more actually targets on that day that were thwarted because of the fact that they changed everything and immediately shut down all airports. So that being said, there's an example that we have on a national basis of a contingency plan that was planned for this, but all of a sudden some smart people, they pivoted and boom, they implemented it for this emergency over here. That is good contingency planning. So there's 4 different types of planning: strategic, tactical, operational, contingency. Strategic, 3 years plus; tactical, 1 to 3 years; operational, less than a year; and contingency, they handle all those weird emergencies that you hope never ever happen, but just in case, we got this plan over here, who knows what'll happen. That being said, keep that in mind. This is part of planning. We're going to break this down a little bit further in this class as we go through the next series of pod classes. Take care.